Section 10, subsection 10, subsection 2A of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, that is Act 815, provides that it's to provide an endowment to support development for future generations when petroleum reserves have been depleted. Right. Now, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, General Secretary of the governing party, has suggested that the economy is in some situation where we are all aware doesn't make sense for the government to go borrow at high interest rates whilst it has money, stashed into a fund called the Heritage Fund. Well, there are those who kick against it, including the minority and the PIAC. Now, I'll start with you, Ben. Tell me, why don't you think that what Johnson Esiedun Ketia makes sense? And you're speaking strictly under 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. For me, I would want to speak it from, contribute from a context. The motives for saying what he said and what they intend to do with the money, I would not be able to be precise with it. But the principle of having 2 cedis, which is getting you an interest at 10% and abandoning it to go and borrow 2 cedis at 40% interest rate, you definitely, every ordinary Ghanaian knows that it doesn't gel well. But the idea of the Heritage Fund, it's a noble one, that by the time our petroleum resources are depleted, a great harm would have been done to agriculture, our fishing industry. There would have been other, negative effects. So for me, there is a need to retain that money and to make sure that when the going gets tough, we will be able to fall on it. But the second question I ask myself is that future, when is that future? And when are we going to have those reserves deplete? If we are going to stay under the current economic conditions, I'm afraid to mention that we could be depleted before the reserves deplete. So there is a need to be very innovative about our public finances. Yes, we have promulgated a law that puts the money there. It's been kept, but we are also in dire need of money. What I am not too sure of is how that money will be used, whether it will be used judiciously. So we are also having. So
you are in support. You are in support with the idea to go for it.
The principle, but the current atmosphere, for me, Ghana
it's about what it is the money will be used for.
Yes, for me,
whether you wisely, judiciously or not.
For me, Ghana now has an accountability challenge in our public finance. So this, to me personally, is not the time to, draw on those resources.
Okay,
let me make a final comment here. If you look at the report of Bank of Ghana on our reserves and the interest or the investment made with it and the amount of money we are getting from it, it's good money to get. From the trader's point of view, sometimes people will believe that if I have 2 cedis and I'm investing it and I'm not getting any yields, I could be tempted to be very slow, not bother because it's my money. Others will also believe that once it's not my money, I've gone for it from somewhere and they are going to take the interest from me. I would like to work hard with it. So the two notions are correct.
Mr. Abdul Malik's perspective would be that in the first place, it's a no-go, it's a no-no, it's a non-starter because the law does not allow you. So shut up.
Precisely. And it could only be coming from somebody who is so desperate, who is at his wit's end, who thinks that the crisis is so much that we have to do something very desperate. Interestingly, and let me be a bit charitable, it's only the General Secretary of the ruling party talking. He's had some little support from 1 or 2 ministers who's modified their stand slightly. So, well, government has not spoken as government, if one has to be charitable.
And those you are aware of are only those who have come public.
Yes. So I'm not looking at it from the perspective of being a government policy. Otherwise, it creates the impression of people at their wit's end. The Heritage Fund is about $120 million at this stage. And I appreciate why it is it's not a high risk saving. I appreciate that. It makes sense to me. There's the stabilization fund that I'm told is around 300 million. And that gives the Minister of Finance the chance to come to Parliament to ask for some withdrawals. We've already sunk some 700 million or so into the budgetary processes. We've had about 1.8 billion, haven't we, since this whole thing. Yes. So you ask yourself, what is it that has gone so wrong that such a bankrupt prescription, like going to assess the Heritage Fund, should be even entertained? It's so bankrupt. It's the voice of desperation. Huh? So really, it doesn't make sense. You know, it's not even helpful to government. Being the general secretary of the ruling party, somebody might easily think that, oh, this could be an attempt to fly a kite and get people to interrogate because we are all hot. We need to look for money quickly. So it's not even fair to government, in my candid opinion.
I see.
But you have the options, as I've said. The stabilization fund is out there. He's not even talking about the stabilization fund. He's talking of the Heritage Fund. So bankrupt.
I see. George, do you find that it is the case that Mr. Seyedun Ketia, perhaps, who started this whole debate, was not immediately aware of the stabilization fund? Other than that, he would rather have chosen for the stabilization fund instead of the Heritage Fund.
Unfortunately,
because the Petroleum Revenue Act allows government access to the stabilization fund through an application to Parliament.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, as I sit here, I have no capacity to speak for Mr. Seyedun Ketia and what went into his thinking or what informed his position. Neither can I speak for the Honorable Fifi Kwete on why he has taken his position. What I can speak for, or what I can speak to, is government's position. My briefing on this matter, clearly, yes,
but
government is completely different
Fifi
from
Kwete, who is the minister.
No,
the presidency.
Gabi.
Speaks, and you,
Gabi,
government communicator says,
but to be fair, Fifi said he was speaking in his personal.
Spoke in his personal capacity.
Is he allowed to speak in his personal?
Why? He doesn't have a personal capacity.
On an economic issue,
he has no personal capacity.
What country do we
What are we talking about?
Are we joking?
In what capacity as
you are a
an
minister of
individual are
state.
you speaking
You are not called because you are Fifi Kwete.
No.
You are called because you are minister of state at the presidency.
But when he was called, he made the point that he was speaking in his personal capacity.
Are we interested in Fifi's?
You see, a texter said that Gabi is just doing the chicken dance. Clearly, that's exactly what he's doing here again. Okay, yes, I'll be very frank with this. Gabi is going to take a bite. He's taking a bite on the economy of this country. Okay, in what capacity did he take?
Proceed to
in
the
his personal capacity,
substantive
not
matter.
as the former director of DI or anything. He's talking in his personal capacity. My point I'm making here very simply is Fifi Kwete and General Mosquito have spoken in their personal capacity.
And you say you are briefed by government on this.
I am speaking government's position on this matter.
Right, that's
the
good.
Government of Ghana has not said anything about the Heritage Fund. As far as I'm concerned, it is not a discussion being had by the Government of Ghana. The Government of Ghana believes in the status quo as is enshrined in the law, the Petroleum Management Act. Okay, that is where we stand. The Heritage Fund is supposed to be put aside in a low risk investment, which is supposed to protect the interest of future generations when we run out of our oil reserves.
What do you think
that is government's position?
I suspect he sits in cabinet.
And I'm telling you that this is not a discussion that has come out
that
at cabinet.
He sits in cabinet.
Well, he gets invitation to cabinet. But you see the point we must make here, and that's the point I'm making. Government has not sat down to discuss this matter. So he's sitting in cabinet as irrelevant to the issues here, because it's not like a discussion was held at cabinet and he's coming out to speak that. He spoke in his personal capacity. Fifi Kwete has always made the point when he's been interviewed that he is speaking in his personal capacity, which no law bars him from doing, even though he's a minister of state.
All right.
Okay, the point we must make here is government's position is that the status quo still remains.
Yeah, okay. George, just a second. Just a second. You know that Seyedun Ketia speaks for NDC.
Yes.
And I also believe that a conversation in a relationship is like the blood in a human being.
Sure.
What, for me, I gather from his suggestion is that the Stabilization Fund and the Heritage Fund is secured by an act of parliament. It suggests to me that probably there is the intention to go back to parliament to repeal
The
or
NDC,
to
the NDC,
amend.
the NDC
To-
as a
to
political
amend.
party
Let-
is not running the
can I
government
land?
of this country.
Can I
So
land?
you cannot possibly
Land.
take a
Can I
statement
land?
by the chief scribe of the NDC.
I'm only
to
telling you my
import,
deductions.
Okay,
no,
please, let me
but
finish
they
this
are
point.
wrong.
Thank you very much.
Government's
Finish your
position,
point.
government's position remains the same. Mr. Asedu Nketia is completely entitled to hold a personal view and even hold a view as the scribe of the NDC. It is a proposition, okay, that he has made. Government's position at the moment, and I am in no position to determine what government's future position will be. I'm making this clear on the matter. But as I sit here, government's current position on the matter is simple. There is a provision in the Act that states that we should have a stabilization fund for which the Minister of Finance can go to Parliament to seek to put his hands in when we are in a state of crisis. The Constitution, the Act also gives the government the room to spend part of that money as part of our ABFA to support our budget. That same act,
not
that
the heritage fund.
I'm talking about petroleum revenue.
Thank you.
That same act allows for us to have a heritage fund, which is monies that will be put aside for future generations.
Okay.
As it stands now,
All right, I
government
think,
as an entity, still led by President John Dramani Mahama, still stands by the dictates of the
point
act.
is made.
Full stop.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
may
you.
I do
And I hope
my
Asedu
may,
Nketia is listening.
may I do
Call his attention to this submission you
may I do my chicken dance now?
Go ahead. The hope will not be bothered.
Thank you, thank you. I think, look, what Asedu Nketia said was out of frustration. And really he was reflecting the difficulties that the government finds itself. You are struggling to pay salaries. You are struggling to undertake your programs in your budget. Because if you notice what happened last year, we hit, 10.8% budget deficit, not because we spent more than we said we were going to spend, but it's because we were not able to raise as much revenue as we hoped we would, and yet spent more than the revenue we raised, but without spending more than the expenditure that we thought we were going to hit. So, and it's the worst difficulty for any government. You are not going against your budget. You are below your budget, yet you are hitting a deficit of 10.8%. So they are in serious difficulties. And in such a situation, it is natural that you look at where you can find money. The finance minister, God bless his soul, I feel quite sorry for him. You know, a lot of these things he inherited is going across the world trying to find money. And he's not getting. You know, look, if you're not careful, by the end of this year, I don't know why the president appears to be so optimistic. I'm not so sure how a lot of government's commitments are going to be met because of the fiscal squeeze. You know, so Asedu Nketia, to me, has raised an issue which reflects the difficulties the government finds itself in. I also believe that we should take another look at the Heritage Fund. That's my
Yeah,
All right. Sorry.
Let me just my personal view, because look, we took it
Okay,
from
now he's giving us his personal view.
Yes.
Don't worry.
Now he's giving his
I'm not a
personal view.
minister. I'm not a minister. If you look at Norway's version of it, Norway have this
Yeah, they're very
government
tight.
pension fund, global pension fund. They're about 850 billion. In that fund, for instance, even Alaska has a similar fund, Trinidad and Tobago. What they do is that you are not allowed to touch the capital, okay? But in terms of the earnings, government can
The
spend
interest on it.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I believe it's not really. We can even have a debate on that. You know, is there any way that we can look at it that even
The National Economic Forum can look
Can
at
look
Absolutely.
at it. But
You
at
can-
this
yeah.
point, how
You-
much interest
you
is
can-
accrued on this money?
No, but I'm
that's
just
the
saying,
question.
that
to ask.
aspect,
But-
not the bankrupt one.
but you can look at those
The new
things.
angle you've brought it, that's an interesting one, but not the
The main cash
thing,
itself.
which is bankrupt.
Absolutely. You know, so I
All right,
I think we should give
But it's
Okay, now,
interesting that
gentlemen,
Gabby is able to
right,
to
gentlemen,
speak for Asedu Nketia and
we
tell
are
you
very limited
what his
time.
thinking was.
Oh, no,